Are you ready, kids?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Subject High, the only podcast on the internet with the guests who do. I am your host for this episode and all episodes, Hookaloof, 24, a bear. And on this very special episode, we've got a fox from across the pond. That's right, it's a British fox, also known as Isaac, who will be today's guest, as we ask him a series of chilling questions that drill down to the dark heart of man.
Yes.
Isaac.
Hello.
How are you? How are you doing today?
Quite well, thank you. Yourself?
I am doing great.
It's good to hear. So, thank you for having me on the show, and I'm genuinely quite excited.
Fantastic. Hopefully, it will live up to the hype.
Never know.
I don't know if there is any hype actually, so it may not live up to anything, but hopefully it'll be good.
It's quite a popular podcast, so it's quite an honor to be on here as well. So, I'm pretty sure the hype for any of your podcasts will be pretty high. Regardless of who's on the show.
Very, very kind of you to call this very popular.
Well, I've seen the how much impressions it's got, and it's quite popular by the books. So
I'm very happy that anyone likes to listen to this show. All right. So let's get things started with a very basic question. You are an artist, and a quite good one in my estimation.
That's your opinion, but my opinion differs.
That's a surprisingly common theme, but I will turn it over to you and ask you, how did you find yourself becoming an artist?
Well, it all started ever since, apart from gaining sentience from being a kid, but I'm kidding. It was because my father himself, he's an artist, and ever since I was a kid, he used to be drawing everything on the walls, decorating, and it's sort of when I was from a very young age, thought I'd take inspiration and start drawing from my dad. Obviously, I started with handprints on the wall and ended up getting yelled at for it. But but it was basically when I was roughly about 10 years old, my dad turned around to me and said, "You're a very good sketcher." And I just turned around and said, "What's a sketcher?" And he said, "It's basically when you take an object and you sort of sketch it out on a paper, and maybe you've got something that that from my dad's words saying that I've got by being able to sketch. But the question is, are you able to think an item out of your head?" So I drew him just a giraffe. It was pretty terrible. I've still got the picture somewhere. And he said, Isaac, you're an artist. And I just went, "An artist?" He just went, "Yeah." So ever since then, I've been drawing, taking stuff from my dad, and he's been supportive throughout the entire thing. Obviously, there's going to be some stuff that he ends up saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do that, try something out." And that's why I got the idea of asking him, "How do you draw? How do you sketch? Are you able to think out of your mind?" And he said, "That's where it differs between you and I, because my dad, he can sketch and whatnot, but he said he'd never able to free draw, and I asked him, draw something for me." So he did, and to his surprise, it came out quite well. But anyway, I digress. So fast forward a few years later, when I was in school, and when we were able to select our courses for when we're moving into the last few years of secondary school, because in Britain we're able to select a couple of our GCSEs, and I selected art because I've found that I enjoy it. My dad was in full support of saying, go on, do art. You're quite good at it. See what you can do with it. So I started it. It's pretty good, but that's when I realised I'm not one for realism, as in draw realistic items like birds or humans or anything in buildings. The only problem is my art teacher never liked that.
Yeah, always, because I ended up drawing all these cartoons, because I used to watch a lot of Disney, Fox and Hound, for example, or Robin Hood. So I started drawing characters from them. Mm-hmm. And obviously, being back then, I didn't know what a fairy was. But I kept drawing all these animals and all these cartoon characters during art class. And my teacher just turned around and said, "Don't draw cartoons because that isn't true art. And I just said, but my dad said that I'm an artist by drawing stuff I like. And she turned around and she just said, no, this is an art class. If you're going to be doing like this, you shouldn't be here. So obviously I just went, yeah, sure, and started just going along, but I started doodling like normal. But then it just, sorry if I'm taking too long and whatnot.
No, this is all very fascinating and incredibly heartwarming.
But it's just, so one day I sort of turned around and just said to my art teacher, saying, why don't you like all this cartoon work that I'm doing? And she turned around and said, that's because cartoon work is a fad. It will die out soon. And how is she wrong? More wrong than that, because it's, see, I'm 22 years old. So obviously when I was a kid, it was like the teacher I had was a fairly older woman, but she wasn't one for cartoons and stuff. So that's probably also another factor. But I think she slowly got around to liking it, but I don't know because I haven't spoken to her in a long time. But anyway, there was one time where she caught me doodling and she just grabbed my piece of paper and ripped it up in front of me, saying, no, don't doodle cartoon work and do realism, which is obviously not the most helpful thing for someone who was quite beaten down, bullied and whatnot in school. That really didn't help because art was the only thing that kept me going. So
yeah, no kidding.
So I sort of turned to the internet when I got my PC by then, which was just, what was it? It was a Windows XP or Vista it was a Windows laptop. So going onto the internet, started searching around, and that's where I discovered all these different online comics like House Pets or Two Kinds, for example. And
classic ones.
Yeah, classic ones, good inspirations. Normally the introduction to furries in the furry fandom, apart from Disney, yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. Got there in the end. But it was just when, well, if they're able to make cartoons like that, how come my teacher turned around and said all this stuff? So I sort of dropped from art in the end to just my own little thing. I swapped it to business studies and just went on from there. But at the same time, continued doing my art, sort of mimicking all this styles and all this art from House Pets and Two Kinds. Hence why a lot of my earlier work, which I don't show on the internet because it's not my own work, it's me sketching other people's work, I keep that to myself as a reminder saying this is what I started as a little sketcher, just drawing stuff before going on to freehand drawing. And then that's when I just went, I'll start my own little comic. And obviously, sadly, it died down within a week because I'm not the most, I'm sort of a person that procrastinates a lot. So it never really got any traction. And I found DeviantArt. I just went, this is a good site. Let's see how it works. Found I could upload work. Got a little scanner. Started doing all the traditional, put it on the scanner, scan it up. And it sort of went on with that. And then I had a lot of people go to me in their notes and just say, why are you drawing all these furry characters? This DeviantArt is all obviously it's taken over by furries now, but back a couple of years ago, quite a few years ago, it was more human work, wasn't it?
I seem to remember more or less that. It was a lot of anime-inspired stuff at the time.
Yeah, anime-inspired stuff. So that also fits into, I use DeviantArt because I used to make a lot of cartoon stuff. But then I just turned around and just went, what's a furry?
There you go. You go. That's a loaded question.
There is a loaded question. And obviously they gave the stereotype and whatnot. And I just went, so they do all that. Well, they can't all be that bad. So I was, boy, how was I wrong? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Everyone there is a lovely person, but I just searched it up and just went, these cartoon animals I've been drawing because of Disney. Am I a furry? And I just went, I looked through all my work and I just went, maybe I am. which is,
I mean, yeah.
And
I think that's totally reasonable to sort of pull from drawing a bunch of anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it didn't answer the question fully, and basically gave me my life story on how, well, in being introduced to, yeah, it was actually, but
hey, I think you answered the question. You answered the question perfectly, and on top of that, you went into my next question, which was more or less how you discovered the furry fandom, and all of it was packaged in an incredibly heartwarming story that I personally loved.
No, thank you. It's obviously I'm like more quiet towards the whole thing because not many people actually ask that sort of question.
I think it's a shame that more people aren't interested in like the where of artists, like where you came from, what situation brought about your art. Not to say that people have to be interested.
Oh, no, but that's what this podcast is more or less for, isn't it? Just delving into the whole, well, most of the podcast anyway.
Yeah, there are some elements. There's goofs and whatnot, but I think it's absolutely fascinating just how all of this comes about, because it's such a unique and bizarre little subculture that you can't really find anywhere else.
No.
And I think that's genuinely fascinating.
It really is. And I can say, I know this probably sounds very cliche and whatnot, but finding the furry fandom actually has changed my life drastically. Excuse me, it really has. It sort of found a niche that I'm able to be happy to draw in.
I don't think that's cliche at all, dude. I think that's something beautiful about this fandom.
It really brings out the best in you. Also, sometimes brings out the worst, but it's you're only human at the end of the day. You're gonna have your best. You're gonna have your worst. It's a bit like that meme a year ago. If you can't stand me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Yeah, that is an accurate description of furries, I would say.
Well, and humankind at its best, really. Literally, It's just, you are who you are. You be you. You are. If people don't like you at your worst, why should they like you at your best? If I know it sounds very sort of wrong to say that, but it's sort of. Where am I going with this?
That's okay. I think I sort of see what you're getting at. Yeah. I think it's an important lesson.
Yeah, I do apologise if I seem a little bit rambling and off topic or something like that. It's just still a bit excited being here.
I can hardly excuse you that. I'm very excited to be doing this, and I also know that I kept you waiting, so it's a little bit late over there.
No, it's absolutely fine. Don't worry.
Though on the topic of sort of the furry fandom, warts and all, you mentioned that you had some interesting interactions in this fandom. As somebody who's been involved for as long as you have probably would. You mentioned that on Discord earlier before we got started with all this, and I was just curious if there was one interesting interaction that you've had in the fandom that sort of drifts more into the have you at your worst side that you would be willing to share, and then we'll lighten the mood with your favorite interaction.
Favorite interaction. Well, I'd say what sees me at my worst is actually not too long ago, to be honest, because surprisingly, I haven't actually had that many sort of. I've obviously had a couple of few sort of why is this happening moments, but to be honest, I'm really surprised I'm not as being interacted as much with that, because people do genuinely sometimes strike up a conversation. But I do have one here. If I go through my Twitter DMs,
oh boy,
where is he? I'm not going to name names, so he's going to be fine.
Oh yeah, definitely. No names here. We're not interested in shaming anybody. No. It's just about the fun stories.
I don't want to shame people anyway, because why should we shame?
Definitely.
Where is he? It's quite deep down in there. Where is it? It's about a guy that basically. Where is he? Let's hope he hasn't actually done anything with the chat. Where is it? Give me 1 second. No, it's not that guy. There's one person there that I find quite amusing, but where is he? Well, I can't remember. I don't need the entire thing. I could just give in a nutshell, saying it was a guy who stole an avatar from another artist.
Oh.
Then the guy proceeded to message me saying, "Hi there, hi, typical, hi QEDURP and whatnot." And I just said, "I don't really, sadly. That's a whole different story." And he turned around and said, "Oh, why is that? Why don't you do this?" And it was shortly after I broke up with my boyfriend, which isn't the best moment in my life, unfortunately, but he's doing well, which I'm glad for. But still talk time to time. He's a good guy. The guy that messaged me about it, he kept pushing me, trying to explain, saying, "Oh, why don't you do this, or this?" And I said, unfortunately, it's a bit too private, and it's kind of hurtful to me for me to bring it up then, but it's just how he was pushing it. I just went, "Please, just stop." And I was asking him, "Please stop, please stop." And he started getting hostile, saying, "Oh, you're a bad person," and it's just, no, that's not nice. And I told him, "Look, if you're going to be like that, please don't message me." And he turned around and said, "Well, if you're going to be like that, maybe you should stop." And it's just obviously him going like that. I had to question, "What do you mean?" He said, "Just stop everything. Stop your art, stop your communication on the internet, just stop. You're a horrible person. I just simply ask you to stop." And he turned around and he said, "Yeah, well, you are a terrible person. Your art is," swear word, and I said, "Well, why did you message me in the first place?" He said, "That's because I thought you were a good person. I was obviously wrong." And I just went, I'm really sorry if your perception of how you viewed me is wrong for you." And he just went, "Don't use those fancy words around me, slimeball." And it's just, obviously slimeball isn't the word he used, but I'm trying to not swear because I don't.
I appreciate the use of slimeball.
Yeah, I don't like swearing per se, so I like using slimeball when speaking with people off the internet. It's something from work now, so that's a different. Sorry, I'm related to this, but it's basically it's. I just went, "Well, if you're going to be like this, I don't want you in my DMs. Can you please cease communications?" And he just went, "Well, if you're going to be like this, I'll give you a little." He owns a little YouTube channel, and he said, "If you're going to be like this, I'm going to give you an artist beware, and I'm going to call you out on my YouTube video." I just went, "Well, if you're going to do that, then I can simply." It was basically an argument over why you shouldn't do this and why he's doing this. Next thing you know, he ended up, well, how do I put it? He ended up being a rather nasty worded person regarding around. It wasn't fun, really. And he ended up blocking me shortly afterwards. And then he unblocked me afterwards.
Okay.
Just to say, "Let's try this again."
No.
I said, "I don't want to communicate with you." And that's when the insults started again, saying, "Oh, you're a horrible person, you should." And then he threw a couple of suicide comments, because if you're going to be that angry, you're going to be doing something that silly by talking about something that is a really sensitive topic. And I said, please do not do comments like that, because it's not right. He said, "If you're going to be like this, I'm going to do stuff like that." And I said, "Well, why are you doing that?" And it's, I know, I'm sorry if I'm rambling a lot. It's just this conversation, I should have blocked him the moment he started getting angry. It's just not. I'm still trying to find the comment, but I'm remembering off the top of the head, because that's the one of the most I remember the most. Because it's, well, one of those comments that I go, that's one of those things I'm not going to remember. Here it is. Just quickly going through it again. Yeah, hang on, where was that? Oh, yeah. Yeah,
that's one I'm probably not going to say on here. But let's just say that he's yeah, not nice.
Now, people like that are always so bizarre to me, especially in this fandom. And I don't know if it's necessarily a universal thing, but I have had interactions like that in the past. Before I became an artist, though, it was just small, like, interpersonal scale ones. There's lots of people out there who are, emotionally manipulative and try to take advantage of your insecurities or push buttons in order to get you to do what you want. And that sort of stuff is really towards the dregs of humanity, and it's a shame that it finds its way into a space like the furry fandom, which I would like to think is a pretty nice place, but it's also understandable because it's a very, despite the affinity for anthropomorphic animals, it's a very human place.
It is a very human place, and everyone has loads of different personalities. You're going to find people that will clash quite often, sadly, but at the same time, you could have wonderful things happen when personalities sort of mix. Because, like you said, we're still human.
Oh yeah,
things are going to happen. No matter.
On the topic of gooder things happening, I was just going to ask: is there any particular interaction that you've had, or situation that you've wound up in that you would say is the best part of your experience within the fandom?
Yes, I can, and
I would love to hear about it.
It's this. Does it count if the guy wasn't in the fandom at the time, but he was brought into, or because it's still roughly about the same hi, how are you sort of person? Is that all right, or should I go for a different one?
I don't know. If this is the interaction that stands out, I say absolutely go with this.
It's when I first met my ex-boyfriend.
I mean, I should specify if you're comfortable talking about this.
I'm comfortable with it now because yes, it hurt what happened, but he's still a great guy. We're still friends. It's just we left on mutual grounds, and we still talk to each other, which is we're still really good friends, which is the most ideal situation out of any relationship. If it ends, hopefully it ends on a mutual grounds, so you can still communicate and whatnot because of all that. But anyway, I digress. Basically, what happened is I was playing a game called Robocraft at the time.
I think I know that game.
And it's how many years ago was it? About 4 coming on 5 years ago now. That's because I used to be an administrator for Robocraft, an in-game admin, and after a while I sort of stopped playing it as much, and I said in the forums, which sadly no longer exist, I said that I'm going to be stepping down from being an admin in the game, so if anyone would like to just poke me a message on just to talk to, here's my Skype. Yes, when everyone used Skype back in the day.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I had one person pop up, and he was different than all the others. He actually had structured his sentences. He asked more than a hi, how are you? He actually asked that he's interested in why I decided to step down. And we started having a little talk saying, yeah, this and this and this. So he just went, tell you what, if you want, do you mind if we talk to each other tomorrow? And I said, sure, why not? And the day after we started talking a bit more, but this time more general stuff. And all this started from a simple hi message as well. And it's just started bouldering, and like it started building and building, snowballing to the point, where I was playing Dying Light one day, and for whatever reason, I was deathly scared of the zombie babies in that game, the little ones that walk around and scream their heads off. And it turns out that my partner, my ex, do you mind if I say his username?
I don't think that'll be a problem if you two are on amicable terms.
Oh, we're still on amicable terms. We're still talking and whatnot. Still good friends. But yeah, it's Trick. But Trick, he turned around and said, "You know what? I've got the game as well. Let me help you."
so he started helping out, and I said, do you mind if we swap onto a voice so we're able to communicate and talk to decide more stuff? He just went, yeah, sure. So we stuck voice on, and we were talking around the whole game, and next thing you know, we beat the game together. And then, which was a surprise to me, because it's normally like, oh yeah, thanks for doing this bit, now I'll carry on my own. But we stuck around to start playing a bit more. And then GTA 5 came out, and I didn't have any money at the time, and Trick, he decided to buy the game day one for the PC. And then he turned around and said, you know what, I'll get you a copy. And he's never done that before to someone. And I think that's where it sort of clicked a little bit, saying maybe we like each other, like more than as a friendship, because we were basically doing all this stuff that we've never done before, and yet we felt incredibly close to one another in a very good friendship way. And then we were playing more, talking more, and I just turned around and said that I think I've fallen for him, as in, I know it's very sort of like very rushed and whatnot, but at the same time it felt right. And he turned around and said, you know, I think I do as well. So, all because of a simple resignation from being an admin at Robocraft, it sort of kickstarted onto GTA, where I basically started asking him out, and he said yes. And it went on for another 4 years, and that 4 or 5 years, and it was perhaps the best 4 or 5 years of my life. And it was for him as well. And it's a shame what happened in the end, but if it happens, it happens. But you never know. We're still, like I said from the very beginning and several times, we are still very good friends, and that's literally the best of both worlds, really. Yes, we've broken up, but we're still close friends. We haven't gamed in a long time or spoken in voice for about a good week or so, but we still type to each other, and we still do go into the occasional voice call, which is, well, still makes me glad that he doesn't resent me.
It sounds like a bittersweet ending to a very sweet story, and I think it's I appreciate you sharing that with me, and ostensibly the world, for that matter.
Yeah, I just don't want people to assume that since we're exes now that one of us is a bad guy, because Trick isn't. He's not a bad guy. He's a really, really nice guy. Just obviously we weren't meant for each other, which, well, if it happens, it happens. But regardless, it was a wonderful journey. It was a wonderful journey.
Yeah, and that's honestly phenomenal.
And I do hope that people who are listening to this also find that their journey with their significant other or partner or boyfriend, girlfriend, really, embrace it, because, well, I know it sounds very cheesy here, but it's about the journey and not the destination, because it is just experience life together, enjoy every single moment.
Absolutely. What's better than that?
Well, happily ever afters, but
well, you can't have a happily ever after without embarking on some journey.
Exactly. And there's no good story is without drama.
This I believe to be incredibly true. Though sort of swerving to a lighter, more technically focused note.
Yep. Sorry for derailing it a little bit.
No need to derail. You just answered a question that I asked. Okay. Besides, this episode's about you. You get to talk about what you want to talk about.
And I've never actually had that happen before, so like I said, I do apologise if I go off on a ramble.
No, I would much rather hear you talk about your life than me talk about mine. I find mine to be incredibly uninteresting.
You say that, but I think my life's pretty uninteresting, and I find
I'll probably find that your life's a lot more interesting than mine.
The most interesting thing that ever happened to me is I was hit by a roller coaster.
Ooh, that's a story we should probably talk about off air, because I'm very interested in how that happened, if you're all right with it.
Yeah, it's a lot less interesting than it sounds, but I will share very briefly as a brief sojourn before we get back into it. Is I used to work. It was actually the first job that I ever had when I was 15, which is actually below the minimum age for labor in the United States. I was a year younger than I should have been working at this job.
But they let you work anyway.
Yeah, already off to a good start. And it was at an amusement park, but not like a big fancy one. It was like more like a carnival that didn't move.
So like a, not like a theme park, but just a permanent fair.
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly apt way to put it. And it only had one roller coaster. And I probably shouldn't name it because then people could find it, but it was not particularly big. It wasn't like one of those giant like loop-de-loop ones.
It's like a small kiddie one that basically goes over a couple of bumps, but
it was a little bit bigger than that. It was like a couple stories high. It was the happy medium between the big fancy coasters and the little kiddie ones.
So like the sort of like a kid to teenager sort of roller coaster.
Oh yeah, it scared me a lot because I used to go to this park as a kid. It scared me when I was a child, and as I sort of started to get into like 11 or 12, I rode it and it was great. And then by the time I was a full-fledged teenager, I was like, this is boring.
Like most things you do as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. But I was working at this park, which had very, very lax security and regulations. Because all these theme park rides were basically discount rides that they bought from carnivals.
So you'd think that there'd be more maintenance checks and more security there for if they're discount rides.
Yeah, but you got to save money where you can. And one place where they saved money was guardrails, i.e. they didn't have any.
I can sense a Death Star sort of thing going on here.
But just one day while I was working, it was like a few hours into the day, and I was going to like get ready to let the people off the ride as it was coming to a close, but I slipped onto the tracks of the roller coaster and like fell flat on my side over them.
Ooh.
And I managed to get one of my legs caught down in the like hot metal portion of the thing.
Ooh.
Just in time for the car itself to come colliding with me just about right smack dab in the middle of my stomach and completely knocked the wind out of me.
Ooh, you were all right then, though, right?
I did live, and had I fallen a little bit closer, I probably would have broken a few ribs, but it just managed to hit me in my squishiest part.
Squishiest part, but there wasn't any permanent damage there, right?
Not really. I don't even think I have a scar. I had a bruise for a while, but the best part of the story was I was working with someone and she freaked out, as I don't blame her. It entirely
was human nature to freak at an accident that happens like that. I'm sorry to hear that it did happen, but I'm glad that you're all right though.
Yeah. She wound up calling on the radio. We had like these signals so that you could say like there's been an accident over the radio, but so that guests at the park wouldn't hear what the accident was, just so they wouldn't freak out, and also so they wouldn't like go and look around for the accident and potentially clog up like medical stuff.
Like hospitals with their green alerts, red alerts, and all of that.
Yeah. She in the end, it was the lowest possible like level. It was basically broken up into like, this is an open wound that could use a bandage, or somebody got a bruise. That's what it wound up being. And then level 2 was, there's a potential broken bone here and somebody needs assistance. And then there's level 3, which is, there's a fresh corpse on the premise. We need emergency medical attention right now.
Oh, so I take it yours was a level 2?
She called in a level 3.
Oh, well, then again, you did fall on a roller coaster track, and it was... But it's understandable. At level 3, you could, if anything did happen, you never know what might have happened in there. So it's probably a good thing she called a level 3 instead of a level 1 or 2, because that would have more. A level 1 wouldn't have as many priority. A level 3 would take priority.
Yeah, I do not fault her for how she responded, but by the time that like all she really needed to do was push the coaster back so I could pull myself out, and she did eventually do that after like a minute or so of me trying to find the oxygen. But after that, I pulled myself out, and I was like, I had a pretty sizable bruise on me, but no broken bones. I think I had a little burn on my leg. I really was genuinely very lucky in this.
You sounded like you were very lucky.
Yeah. But by the time that I was all free, I turned around and I saw this giant like golf cart full of medical supplies coming up over the horizon, and it had my boss at the park as well as 2 people in like red first aid uniforms and a guy in a suit who I found out later was a lawyer.
Understandable, because if there was a fatality at the park, a lawyer would be there to basically reduce as many incident costs as possible. But what happened at the end was, were you? What did your boss do at the end of it?
Well, I was for my trouble, I was given a 15-minute unpaid break. They specifically said, go walk it off, and while you're walking it off, go walk back to the employee offices and clock out. So, very, very cool policy there. And by the next year, I was not rehired at this place because they knew me as the guy who got hit by the roller coaster. And I will admit, that's a liability.
It is a liability, and they could count it down as accident prone, even though it completely was by accident. And literally, it was more. What did you slip on, by the way? Was it just a simple puddle, or was it a?
It was just like some slick metal. I don't even. It may have been wet because there was lots of like things that used steam to sort of pressurize stuff. So it could have been like something dripping from that. But
from condensation. Yeah, a guard should have been there though. Which
they did add them afterwards. So credit to them. They recognized that this was a fault.
You should put it on Reddit, such as r/ what was it, where they say new stuff because of what happened. But anyway.
Oh, I didn't even know that was one. I should. I'd be curious to hear people's reactions.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I'm glad you're all right though, and I'm sorry that it suddenly turned from the interviewee to the interviewer.
No, I did mention the story, and I cannot fault anyone for wanting to ask about it. And the only long-term ramification is I did work at a different department of this amusement park for a few other summers as like a summer job, and every year somebody new would find out that I was the guy who got hit by the roller coaster, which was a fun reputation to have.
Hey, at least you'd say, I'm the sole reason there's guardrails on that place now.
Yeah, you should be thanking me for getting hit by that roller coaster.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword in that case, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think they wound up relatively recently tearing the amusement park side down, but keeping like a big pool. So it's more like just a small water park now. And I tried very much to buy a piece of the roller coaster to keep as a trophy for how I lived.
The specifically the part that you fell on.
Yeah, I would have loved that, but they said no, they're just going to sell it, and I thought that was fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
But redirecting things back around to you after a brief sojourn into the world of cheap amusement parks.
It was a good story. It was a good story, though. Thank you for sharing it.
No problem. I hope I haven't talked about that before on an episode. I don't think I have. I've got a couple in the backlog, but regardless, I wanted to get your opinion of the art that you've done, particularly what your favorite piece that you've ever done is.
The most favorite piece I've ever done, well, I sort of chop and change a lot. I mean, for a while, my most favorite piece was, let me just find it quickly, was several years ago, which was 2 years ago. And the reason being is because I sort of changed a way I did the lighting, changed the shading, changed basically how I drew. And it came out surprisingly well for someone who's recently only just gotten into art. And I just went,
for the longest time saying, yeah, it's my most favorite piece because it literally just came out well. I'll quickly, I know people can't see this here, but I'll send it to you on Discord now. But that's the piece.
Oh, that's adorable.
And thank you. For the longest of time, that used to be my most favorite piece. And then recently, it's changed to, I know it's a probably a bit long time, but it's then onto this one, which is called Sticking a Round. The reason being is because it's a more developed, speak English, the more developed form of the shading, of all the lighting, and general more, I know it's like it's the same sort of pose in a way, but at the same time it's a bit more refined. And he looks a bit more squishy, but still bigger. And it's, to this day, it's still my most favourite piece to have drawn of Isaac. But for other people, if you don't mind me saying for other people, would still have to be, a while ago, had to be of, again, Trek, of him on top of a balloon, which is called Balloon Rider. And it's this one here. And that's my most favourite piece of drawing for another person. If I get it to load, I'll give you the link itself. Here we are. Oh, the Discord's not burning it through, but it's a... there we go. It's gone through.
There it is.
My most favourite piece for drawing for another person because of how the shade, once again, the shade and the lighting and the general squish, and how I did a different pose than the typical standing up pose. But that's the thing with art, you're constantly like evolving and adapting, and still my favourite piece.
It's really incredible to see these two, particularly the Pat one and then the Sticking a Round one, seeing those side by side just to see how much you grew, because it's not just about like the posing and the squish, but also you develop this incredible like grasp of how lighting reflects off different material. It's genuinely incredible. And if I remember to, I might put like links to these two, if you still have the Pat one, up on a gallery.
I do have the Pat one, indeed. I'll send you the link afterwards if need be.
Yeah. And hopefully I'll remember to do this, but if not, go ahead and check out aBritishFox on FA and look for these two pieces and look at them side by side. And this is, golly, what's the difference in the time here? That's
a year, 2 years.
Yeah. That is genuinely impressive. So I talk about this a lot, but they're really, it can feel like an incredibly daunting task to try and become an artist from scratch, but wowie zowie, with enough perseverance and practice and studying, you can really go from something good to something great. This is incredible, dude.
Oh, thank you. It's down to the fact that I also had a bit of help from other artists willing to give advice, because you find that if you do poke an artist, instead of poking with hi, how are you, or do you role play, if you are interested in like on how art works, literally just ask, say, how are you able to do the lighting like so, or how are you able to have a pose in such and such place? I'm pretty sure people have asked you this question as well, but it's, firstly, love to help you out. Secondly, thank you so very much for asking on how to do that, because I've had one person ask that, and it really is the most just ticklish, warmish feeling one could get. And it's, but it also shows that anyone, literally anyone, can be an artist. And people who say, oh, I wish I could draw as good as you, don't, literally don't. It'll keep practicing, keep drawing, and you'll be better. You will be, as an artist, our job is to basically create art to inspire other people to be better than them.
And, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, and see them grow, because it's just, and the words that really me basically melt into a pile of blushy melted fox, is just saying, hey, I've been really inspired by your work, and here's my work, and I'll continuously draw that way because they've taken inspiration. And it's like, you've taken inspiration from me. Oh goodness, I'm please excuse me from squealing so very loudly, but oh my goodness, thank you. It's just really grateful, and to then see them evolve over time because there's one person who I'm going to name here because they are a wonderful person. They are a great friend of mine.
Please do.
Yeah, it's Modern Balloony. And his art has improved magnificently. And it's just the day he turned around and said that I'm an inspiration for him, Lone or Ricochet Wolf and Jack Fox are an inspiration to him as well. It's just being part of that, those two people, it's like a trio. It's like, oh my goodness, thank you. But to see him grow from how he was to how he is now is just, it's like planting a seed. Sure, it may be a small little seed, but after a long time of perseverance and continuously watching them grow and whatnot, you never know, that small little seed could make a grand red oak. If such a tree exists, I've probably thrown it to an oak and a redwood, but they could become a redwood tree, the biggest redwood tree in the forest. And that seed could be because they turned around and said, you've inspired me to draw.
Absolutely. So if anyone out there is listening and you are inspired by Isaac's art or by my art or anyone's art, 100%, like, and if you are inspired and you're not drawing, I recommend that you pick up a pen and you get started today. I will say, you probably won't like what you make at first, but give it a couple weeks and you'll see yourself get better, and give it a couple months and you'll see yourself get proud of your progress. Give it a few years and you would be amazed at how far you can go. And the time just flies.
Quite fast, actually, yeah. And here's a little thing. All the time when you're drawing, you feel like you're not like doing the best of your abilities, but that normally indicates that you are getting better. You expect more from yourself, and in the end, you will do more for yourself. And I know that probably came out wrong, but what I'm trying to say is just persevere, keep going at it. You'll find that you are getting better each time.
Oh yeah, especially in the early phases of drawing. Oh, yeah. It's like working out a muscle.
Yeah.
You get stronger with every line you draw, even if just a little bit.
Yeah, it's each time that you pick up a pen and draw, you're getting better. You are getting better. Just keep drawing.
we promise you're getting better.
I'm pretty sure that in the future you're going to be better than us. Literally, Hookaloof, you're a brilliant artist. Keep going.
Oh my god.
No, you are a brilliant artist. I love the art that you draw. Like I said, I'm nervous being on this podcast because I'm speaking to you. Yes, I'm not lying. I'm genuinely being honest. Speaking to you, it's like, goodness, I'm speaking to an artist that I really look up to, and it's
that is very flattering and a little bit shocking almost, because I don't know. I'm very happy with what I draw now. I didn't always used to be. Lord knows, especially just beginning. The first year that I was drawing, I didn't nearly take it seriously, and that was half life situation, being in college, being super busy. I moved to San Francisco for a few months and it was hard to draw. But like once I sat down and I decided that this is what I wanted to do, I promise you'll be incredibly amazed at the progress that you can make just by doing it. And ever since then, art has been my favorite thing to do. I can't believe the things that I'm able to make now, and the fact that anyone at all likes them is an incredibly gratifying experience.
The reward really pays off, and I can just say, even though sometimes you will feel like an art block will happen, but you have to remember, they are only temporary. They are literally only temporary, because I'm pretty sure you've experienced a couple of art blocks, haven't you, Hook?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're not nice, but once they pass, you feel like you're walking on air.
Oh my god, the sort of breakthrough that you get after having an experience like that. It usually comes with at least some sort of artistic development. You either wait it out and then your passion's reignited, or you find something else to work on that sort of gets the juices flowing again.
It's a bit like I'm probably going to make a big old Skyrim reference here, but let's just say that when you're close to leveling up your skill, it will find that it will go a bit slower, but once you do it, it will speed up again.
Oh yeah. Nothing like good old Skyrim.
Good old Skyrim. That game. Taking an arrow to the knee.
Oh my god. I wish I had decided to take that as my podcast slogan.
Yeah. Great. I want to play the game now.
Nothing wrong with that. It's a very fun game.
Oh yes, it's a masterpiece.
But that is all of the questions that I sort of had for you, and I had a wonderful time getting to answer these. It was a very, very heartfelt and genuine episode, full of positive vibes and good feelings.
Oh, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure being on the podcast with you as well. And I do hope that we get to do something like this again in the future sometime. I
would absolutely love to.
Maybe when we're both better artists.
Hopefully. That can happen immediately. Yeah.
Well, if we go by that assumption, I'll see you in about 5 minutes.
I got to start drawing then. I got to make sure that I'm better.
No, you're already improving even by just speaking there. You literally just.
I'm probably not going to leave this in because it's incredibly dated, but there was an very old meme that I saw that was like a headline of a newspaper that got taken out of context, and it was the headline was "Man with Ebola says I'm getting stronger every day." Obviously talking about, recovering, but the way that it sounded made it sound like Ebola was making him stronger.
So everyone wanted to it's I can see headlines do that just to try and get clicks, really.
Yeah.
Oh, clickbait.
Gotta love the clickbait.
I love the clickbait. Thankfully, our art isn't clickbait. It is genuine.
I should start doing clickbait art. I don't even know what that would look like.
You basically say, "Oh, here's a thumbnail to a piece that looks just like something totally different to the actual genuine art that you've posted."
Oh, I should do something like that, especially on Twitter, is find a picture that crops in such a way when you upload it that it looks completely different from what it is.
Oh, that reminds me of something that Boyzilla did a couple of years ago for April Fools, where he basically did a teaser for an NSFW piece, but the way he did it made fun of the way images load, and ended up doing massive April Fools at the bottom of it.
Oh boy!
Well, it didn't load quotation marks fully.
You gotta love stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I love a good little joke.
But before we wrap things up, did you have any sort of shout outs that you wanted to do to anybody, or plug your art pages so that people can follow you and see your good stuff?
If you I'd like to give a massive shout out to basically everyone that I know, especially you, Hookaloof, for bringing me on here. But I'd like to give a shout out to Modern Balloony for being such a good friend and basically making me be a melted pile on the floor by basically helping you become who you are now. And I don't ever give up, mate. You're doing fantastic. I'd like to give a shout out to Trick as well for basically giving perhaps one of the best few years of my life. And I hope to speak to you again sometime as well, and I hope you're doing well. I'd like to give a shout out to everyone that has inspired me to do art as well. So that'd be Aaron, Jack Fox, Ricochet Wolf, Scott C, who else? Fanshu High, Boyzilla. Basically, all the artists in the world, basically, because they're just a huge inspiration. Just all the different styles and all the shading. You're a massive help. Thank you very much. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter or watch me on for Affinity when it isn't being DDoSed, that's. I hope that guy gets what's coming to him. But anyway, I digress. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it is www.twitter.com/aBritishFox. I think that's how it works. Yep. Twitter.com/aBritishFox.
And if you want to see me on for Affinity, it's same name at aBritishFox. And if you ever want to pop me a note, feel free, and I'll literally get back to you as soon as possible when I'm not working or when I'm not asleep.
Fantastic. If for some reason you have found my podcast without knowing who I am, which is always possible, you can find me on Fur Affinity as the username _Hookaloof, because just Hookaloof was taken. That's not me. And if you want to find me on, except no substitutes. Which I guess if he got the original name, that makes me the substitute. So I'm Hookaloof the Unacceptable.
Oh, speaking of which, I'd like to give speaking of similar names and whatnot, I'll give a massive shout out to British Foxy, being one of my best friends in the entire world.
Oh my gosh, your best friend almost has your exact same username?
Yep, he's called British Foxy and he's a brilliant guy. He's actually the one that, well, the first people I saw in the furry fandom as well. From an old 2012 to animation, but that's been gone since YouTube because something happened. But yeah, he's one of the first few people from the furry fandom, and big old shout out to him. Keep going, keep doing good, mate. I miss you. I want to talk to you again, mate.
That is phenomenal. All right. But that's all I have. This has been Subject High, the only podcast on the internet with the guests who do. And I hope you have a great day.
Have a great day, guys.